We have 6 different presenters this afternoon, and they are all very interesting, presenting on very interesting things by Ganguly.
So media is of course not just journalism and not just communication. But in all this, I would like to pose a different hypothesis, approach, which is what can be, because everything that has been posed so far is about the nation state, is all rotating and centering on the nation state. And that is also the problem in our South Asia, perhaps in the rest of the world as well. It tries to show that it is something extremely transnational. It is not related to a certain region or a nation anymore. And the deconstruction of Bollywood is that it reflects something beyond what the nation itself dictates. So we have many issues which Bollywood over the ages has dictated. For example, Mother India, a very famous ancient movie which many of our entered audience would know, has highlighted caste, class, unity, and many issues of development as it was understood at that time, to do with dams, hydroelectric projects, etc. We have more recently gender and waves of feminism, which are also in a way transnational phenomena because they are coming from outside our region. They are influencing our region, they are influencing our local people, they are influencing not only the feminist equity requirements, but also the concept of gender equity. And then we have another important dimension which Bollywood touches upon, NRI and the diaspora. For the vast majority of Indians, going outside the country and living it up as a diaspora, living it up as an NRI is the target. For my generation and for a long time my previous generation, it has been defined at many levels. It is not just something that crosses boundaries, crosses nation states and crosses cultural differences and still crosses sides of political engagement. In this area, the civil society plays a huge role. Red Cross societies, to an extent maybe SAARC, intergovernmental organizations, they also play massive roles in bridging and linking up cultures and people across boundaries. You also have new phenomena like the internet, virtual forums, which also link up people. So the stage of political debate is no more within the traditional conventional media, but it has gone Darjeeling Hills itself. I would like to show that there is a huge amount of debate, dialogue which is possible, which is not at all being touched by either the academia or by the national communication processes. Next slide. This is not coming out very clearly. It's a Google image, a relief map feature of the Darjeeling Hills region. And I'm not just talking about Darjeeling Hills, but it is also neighboring Nepal and Bhutan and a little bit of Tibet, that is TAR. There's an extreme degree of variation in the microclimate and the microterrain that I'm studying in this zone is the varieties of rice. A very important concept right now is, with regard to climate change and global warming, is which kind of food grains will survive the change in climate. And a lot of attention is going towards organic as well as traditional varieties because these varieties have sustained over the millennia. They are very hardy. They might have lower yield than a genetically modified or tissue cultured or high pesticide fertilizer requirement varieties. But on the other hand, they can survive without these, and they are keys to future development, future food securities. So this is just a quick picture of transnationalism in border areas which we are lacking, which we are not facing, which we are not raising. Just to come to a quick theoretical background on the transnationalism. Many of us from international relations background, we are familiar with this dichotomy or relationship between internationalism and domestic imperatives. I put international relations on the y-axis as is traditionally done and domestic imperatives on the x-axis. As internationalism, as international factors, global factors are higher, we have the international approach to dealing with problems. As domestic imperatives influence more the actors and the structures which are taking actions, the domestic approach is more powerful. This we see quite often in foreign policies, in various public policies taken by various nation states. And sometimes, and these two approaches are always clashing, and we have a compromise. So what we have in between is a compromise where there is a trade-off between, okay, we give away some benefits to the domestic requirements, or we give away some benefits to international human rights requirements, and we come to a compromise. So the transnational strategy is my feeling going beyond this, both of these situations.